Hey there, I'm Bradley Kohler with the Stylist League. As a character artist for games, VFX, and print, I've worked with giants like Bungie and EA. Now let's talk posing. It's something that most character artists in gaming and VFX rarely tackle. Why? Because rigging is an art form within itself and it can take a while to get right. But what if I told you there's a simpler way? Enter Reallusion's CC for Pose Tool workflow. This workflow is revolutionary. It lets you keep all of your high frequency details in your models while giving you the freedom to explore posing. Using this workflow will allow you to reach your creative vision while enjoying the process. And I mean enjoy the process. It is fun and it's simple. Rigging is a breeze now, which means that there's more freedom to experiment and pose. Plus, with the ZBrush Pose Tool plugin, you'll be able to finesse your character to perfection. In my upcoming Pose Tool workflow walkthrough, I'll show you how to harness the power of the Pose Tools plugin by refining your models in ZBrush and also finding creative poses inside of Pose Tools. I look forward to you looking at our video and enjoying the process. Have fun. Peace. Before we can jump into Reallusion's character creator, we need to clean up our ZBrush scene to support a clean and back and forward process to and from character creator. In my ZBrush scene here, you'll see that I have some folders, and within these folders, you'll also see that I may have some tools that have underscore numbers. So character creator is fine with things that may be listed as, let's say, foot 2, but what you can have is foot underscore 2. So we would have to go through our scene and clean out all tools that are in folders. And also, while doing this, we have to keep in mind on things that we want to have hard and soft skinning. In Reallusion Character Creator, if you want an object to not deform and to stay rigid, it needs to be able to be separated and assigned to a bone. And it needs to not have the tool within its own subtool. So, for example, if we look at this knee here, when I rig this, and let's say I want it to be hard skin, if I hard skin it, Character Creator is going to select any bone that's on the leg to assign this tool to. However, when it does that, it's going to assign both of these objects into one bone, and we don't want that. What we really want to have happen is that you want your tools to be, if you're going to use hard skinning, to be separate. See how this tool is separate and not combined? That means that when I go to hard skin this object, it will be hard skinned properly and it will not be tied together. Each appendage will be operating on its own. So I'm going to go through here, I'm going to clean up the file, and then I'll circle back and let's see how things look. Okay, so as you can see, I went in and I removed all the tools from folders. I also went in and I made sure to cleanly remove anything that had underscore numbers. And I made sure things were labeled correctly as I thought about the process of what's going to be hard skinned, what's going to be soft skinned, what things I want to deform, what things I don't want to deform. One thing you'll see here, so in things that are like tied to an individual bone, there's a good chance that you don't have to always separate the objects. So if you look at this tool here, it's still in one tool. However, I will be able to hard skin this, and it's going to be tied to one bone, which is the head bone. So it was perfectly fine to just leave this together. So I wanted to make sure I can find things easily, make sure I'm able to search for names. That's going to be really important when we go to select hard and soft skinned objects inside of Character Creator. One of the final steps for tool preparation for Character Creator is to make sure that your character is actually in the right size for the Character Creator environment. CC has built a really cool tool inside their ZBrush Pose tools that will allow you to correct this very easily. You can go in and just start running the size process with your tools all in its high subdiv form, but I rather not do that. It'll kind of speed up the process if you don't have it at its highest resolution. There is a setting here that will allow you to bring all your subtools to its lowest subdivision, and we'll do that now. When it's done scanning over, it's going to tell you what the current size is of your Z tool. And as you can see here, this one's at 170 centimeters. However, I selected to have it all resized to 180 centimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes. And since the size change is not too dramatic, you won't see a large size change in my scene. But if you look at this, you can see there's some slight resizing that's happening on each tool. Nothing dramatic. And I also believe I resized this tool once before early on. See, as you can see here, everything's starting to shift over to its new position. Now that we have our scene cleaned up and ready to go into Character Creator, I will make sure that I clean my GoZ history by going over to Preferences, GoZ, and I'm going to clear cache files. It's important to clear your cache files because sometimes when using GoZ across multiple tools or using GoZ for different projects, it'll rename things and sometimes can cause some errors between character creators. So I like to clean this before using it. And now that that's clean, I'm also going to verify that I have character creator set to current. And now I'm just going to go see visible everything that I see here. Now that I have Character Creator opened up through GoZ, I am looking for the Character Creator outline dialog box that will show a list of all my subtools. There it is. Sometimes it might be behind other windows. And what I'm doing is I'm checking the outliner list to make sure that all of the tools say create prop. And once I verify that all the tools are set to create prop, I'll click update. There. Now that everything's inside of Character Creator, I will save a project file. So now's a good time to save a project file with your character imported into the scene. At this point in time, I'm not looking to skin the file now. I just want to make sure that I have a clean, fresh file that if I need to revert back to another project, I can. Now that we're in Character Creator, we're going to start the process putting in our bones so that we can rig our character. In order to start the process, I'm going to select everything that needs to get identified in the skinning process. Now that I have everything selected, I'm going to go to AccuRig. So the reason why you want to select everything, so if I go in, let's just say I just select this, and I select AccuRig, guides, it's only going to impact this area that I have selected here. So I want it to detect all of the characters. So I'm going to select everything. So I'm going to get out of this. Okay. I'm going to go select here, select here. That means I wanted to take into account the whole body when I put in my guides. Create guides. Now that this is created, we're going to go in and we're going to place our markers in the vicinity of where we need them so the bones can be placed. Is approximately the right location. And what you can do here in the Windows panel or the view panel, and we're going to view, let's do the right. We click the guide, it'll tell you approximately where it needs to be. And try to always make sure you grab everything on the right axis. See how it's acting weird here? View it on the front. Snack area. About right. If you ever have a character that's not symmetrical, you can check, uncheck this, and you can pose your bones asymmetrically. But since this guy's symmetrical, I'm going to click here. See, my knees are off. Okay. Now that that is placed, so another thing that I always do, because in Character Creator there is a workflow that's called hard and soft skinning, meaning anything that is selected that you bind to your skeleton will be soft skinned. Anything that's not selected will be hard skinned, meaning it won't deform. So I always like to uncheck all mesh and selected meshes only. That way I have control over what gets hard and soft skinned. I'm going to generate my skeleton. Now that I have my skeleton generated, I can go in and I can tweak it. So usually areas that you might want to go and refine are the fingers. So let's look at this. Did a pretty decent job. Go and put the knuckles where I need the knuckles to be. Sky is off. You want to definitely make sure you take your time to make sure these guides are in the right place. It'll save you some trouble later. To make sure your hands are bending how you expect them to bend. So to turn, I'm pressing Alt and right mouse button. I'm scrolling. And to move, I'm pressing Alt and left button. This looks right. See how that jolted off there? Control Z. And it doesn't matter that it's not sitting right in space, right where you need to be. The bones will be inside the mesh. Kind of not a. I'm not a fan of where this is. Okay, so the skinning process or binding process. So I know that I want his inner body to be soft skin. So I'm going to make sure I identify where his body is. Body. So what I like to do is I start turning off things so I can find it easier when I start to bind them. So that's going to be soft. Because I've done this before, his arm. His hands, I'm going to want this to be soft. I'm going to want this one to be soft. His upper, I want to be soft. This, I want to be soft. His knee. These are the form. So everything you see here now, I want all this to be hard skin. Actually, I'm going to have the side rib pipes be soft. Tube. That this. I'm going to want this back part. Back part to be soft skinned. I think the neck part too. Let's do the neck. That to be soft. Okay. So what I do now is I go through in all the areas that I took the eyeballs off. I'm going to go in and shift select them or control select. Here, 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 here. So everything that I have selected will be soft skinned, and everything that is not selected will be hard skinned, meaning it will not deform. I'm going to bind it. Okay. So everything with this eyeglasses icon is hard skin. And if you look here, there's a folder here of all my items that are soft skin. So we can go in and we can do an animation check. You go to the bottom and we can go to mail and we can go to walk animation. Let's see what this looks like. There we go. Easy money. Just stop this. Store to bind pose. All right. Now that this guy is rigged, we can start to play around a little bit. There are many ways that you can go in and pose your guy. You can do it from scratch, or you can use a template, which would be a combination of animation mocap, or you might have a pose that's already created and you can edit off of that. So what I'll do is I'm going to show you how to edit off of a mocap pose, and then I'll show you how you can edit from scratch. So I'm going to content, and I have some poses that I've purchased. I bought some combat poses, and I'm going to go to this martial arts pose here, and I'm going to try this one. Let's try this defense one. So now that I have this pose, let's say, there's a few things that I would like to change about this pose. I'm going to go to edit, edit pose. Once you're in edit pose, you get to see your character's bones. And from here, you can really start to go in and tweak it. Sometimes you have this, well, you will have this window that will pop up on another window. So you can move it over if you have multiple displays. And from here, and this is where you can switch to IK and FK mode. So I'm going to go, let's say here, I want to move this arm. So I'm going to go and I'm going to change it to rotate. And here is at the top, you have two choices. You can rotate on parent or you can rotate local. So let's try parent and let's see what that looks like. Right? As I'm moving this, right? It's only doing that. If I change it to rotate local, still about the same. So as you can see, when I'm changing from parent to local, so if I change to local, pay attention to how the gizmo starts to shift. So if I go to local, see how now it's on the axis of this arm. If I go to parent, it's now shifting to how the relations are from the bones from the arms to the rest of the body. Let's rotate this head. I want to change the way this axis is for this wrist. So I'm going to change this to local. See how that changed to now it makes more sense for me to rotate. And here I'm just playing around here, but definitely have some reference up when you really start to go in and play around with your pose. Another cool thing that Character Creator provides is some handy hand poses that you can quickly go and apply to your model, and then you can edit from there too. So let's do this. Let's move this hand out of the way. Let's say we really love this wide open stance. Sure. I select here. See how when I change to FK now, I'm not changing the whole model. So if I was, when I was on IK, I'm shifting the whole model here. I don't want to do that. I just want to change his torso area. So I'm going to switch to FK, have this section selected, and now I'll be able to just rotate his body. All right. So I'm going to go out of here. So I'm going to exit this. Oh, templates. So I'm going to items. Gesture, you'll see a lot of these hand poses. So let's say send out. Let's try this one. I'm going to put it on the left hand. See how it changed it there. And let's say on the right hand, I'm going to give it a fist. If I go to hold, I can change it to a fist. Let's do right hand. Now I got that fist. If I want, I can go back to edit. I can go here. I can start to edit this hand. So let's say I really loved this pose and I want to save it out. What I like to do is make sure I go back over to the right section and I will go to pose. And under pose, I can go and I can press save. And this is where it's going to store it. It's going to store it underneath animation in motion. Okay. Message there. And now it's saved here. So what I did was, so I also created quite a few poses that I liked, either from scratch or a combination of template poses that I edited. So I'm going to go here, go to custom poses. I have quite a few here. So I have this flying kick pose that I played around with. I have this one here. And let's see. I have this one here. So what I'm going to do now is that the pose that I landed on was a pose that I saw inside of my Masters of Anatomy book. And I felt this pose would be a really cool statue pose. I loved the action pose that's going from the leg to the floor. I loved this knee being up. I liked how this arm was bent over here. I thought it was really cool, dynamic pose. And this pose I had to make from scratch. So I'm going to play your time lapse of how that turned out. But surprise, I saved it here. Right? And mind you, it's Sometimes things won't be 100% perfect, but we're sculptors, right? We'll clean a lot of this stuff up. But I'll play that video now, and also I'll show you some back and forth between ZBrush and Character Creator in the process. So in this part, I'm going to send him over to ZBrush. And my goal here is to just try to match my reference that I have from Anatomy, Masters of Anatomy art book. And, just going in here and shaping things, making sure that I keep the silhouette of the pose that I'm going for. One great thing about this is that having your model at low subdivisions, you can smooth things out, you can adjust things, and it won't impact the high. So the goal here is just to rotate them around, adjust all the areas that are protruding, making types of weight corrections that I need in the pose. Reallusion did a really good job in making sure that everything was in the right area. You know, when you're making these statues, making these poses, even with a rig, everything won't be 100% perfect, but at least with Character Creator, I'm about 85% there. Because this is a statue, eventually I'm gonna have to close out some of these holes and key them. But the work's there, the look is there. Just to go on here and really go here and fix this knee armor, move some of the verts back in place. And as I've said before, because everything's low, the high will be there. Switch to the Z modeler brush to really be able to select the edges and the verts and move them in place. Switch back over to the move brush. You gotta always remember that there's always going to be some level of cleanup. The goal is to get 85% of the posing. I'm looking at the other knee, seeing how it looks to make sure I'm able to match it up. Using Z modeler to be able to select the verts and move them a little better. Fixing any gaps. Really going in each piece at a time. I created this part to fill in his head in there. I'm moving everything to its highest subdivisions. I can check out how things are looking. Really see what's not straight and what needs to be adjusted. Definitely need to go in on this knee armor and really adjust it. Looking at how the legs are connected. Really thinking about how I'm gonna go in and make this work with this pose. What I end up doing here is doing a transpose so I can get all the pieces together because I really need to fix a lot of these shapes versus having everything in individual subtools. I needed to have everything together so I can go and make the adjustments that I needed to make. Poly grouping the legs from the thighs so I can get a clean break. Ended up resending it because I wanted to make sure the whole body was together. That's a poly group. Going in and grouping the legs from the thigh. Fixing how the leg is protruding into the thigh or vice versa. I'm gonna also end up adjusting how the proportions are overall. Character Creator did a really good job in making sure I had the geo and the right flow of where I wanted things to be placed. But sometimes, you got to finesse it, go back into sculpting and adjusting and making sure things feel right. It's much easier to make these adjustments by combining all the subtools together versus having them separated individually. Here, I'm just going in and shaping this. And what's great is that this is at its lowest subdivision. So when I bring it back, a lot of that high detailing that I did will still be there. This knee is really bothering me. Pretty soon I'm going to go in and adjust it, but just going in and correcting this knee and the clipping and making sure it feels right. As you can tell, this knee's been really bothering me. Sending everything back to get a good idea of how it looks, transposing it back. End up, using the transpose line to really adjust it more on how the pose is. Just checking back and forth to see what I like most. You see from the reference, that leg is really making a nice curve. And I want to get some of those elements in my pose. Just masking some of these places off. Really to bring that leg up some. Probably turn it in some. Again, just going around and making adjustments where things are clipping through. What's great about doing the transpose with multiple subtools and getting it all into one tool, you can mask off things that you want to mask off, adjust things the way you want to adjust them and position them. I like the way this is feeling. And all of it back. Here I'm thinking about the bass and what he's going to be on, and I can just hear Mike in my head making sure that the bass isn't too big. I believe I decided here that I'm gonna end up going with a double stack bass, 2 layers. Thought it would be cool. This wraps up this adjustment. Time to start working on this bass. My thought was to do a stacked bass, but I want to do something a little different. I'm going to end up taking this bass and going into Blender so I can make my bevels. I like making my bevels inside of a modeling package. Just so happens it's Blender in this instance. I feel like I have a little bit more control and I know how the bevels are going to fall. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to go into Substance Painter and I'm going to create a displacement map on my design and bring it back into ZBrush. I'm just going to these edges, making my bevels where I see fit. And because I'm going back into ZBrush, I have to clean up all my engons. So this is a method to kind of look up in Blender where all your engons are. And they're gonna light up. So all those areas I have to fix, I'm gonna go in and cut some loops to terminate all the ingons and make them into squares or polys. ZBrush doesn't like when things are not in quads, or at least at the very least triangulated. Now, because I have to go into Substance Painter, gotta make some quick UVs. I like to use a tool called Zen UV to make my UVs in Blender. So I'm gonna quickly cut some edges and unfold these. Again, I'm doing this because I'm gonna go inside a Substance Painter and I'm gonna create a design for my base that I'm gonna then take into ZBrush and apply a displacement map that will then project the details that I'm doing in a 2D space into a 3D space. Pretty cool workflow, especially if you are experimenting and you may not have certain brushes or created custom brushes, whereas in Substance Painter there's lots of materials for you to blend and play around with. Just making sure I have a clean UV layout, didn't go super crazy. And I just go beat it back inside of ZBrush, and because I made sure everything was closed off as far as the ingons, it came back pretty cleanly. And what I'll end up doing is, because I'm gonna double stack this, I'm gonna end up duplicating it. Here I'm just going through creasing the edges so I can see what that's gonna look like. Mixing two worlds, a little bit of Blender, a little bit of ZModeler. Yeah, I decide I'm gonna duplicate it and because the Guyver is a bio armor. I was thinking maybe I can take it into Substance Painter and find really cool material that can represent that. I'm gonna do a quick bake, just baking it to itself. Nothing crazy. There's a material that I found that I really like that kind of gave off the bio feel that I was going for. Just making sure I have the edges going cleanly around the base. You'll see some areas are stretching. It's not a big deal because it's going to be underneath the second base. Playing with the position, and because this is going to be a displacement map, I want to look at the displacement, so I switch to height, make sure things are reading. As you can see, like in this height map, you have these multiple layers that would have probably taken me a little extra work to get working and looking good if I was using a brush to do it, or Substance Painter is just another cool tool that has lots of materials, not just for painting, but you can also bring into your sculpting. Going in and adjusting the height, the bump, kind of make it really show, because again, I'm going to bring this into ZBrush and it's going to be a displacement, so I want to make sure I have enough to play with when I bring it in there. I need to add a grayscale map. You can also do it with the normal map too, sometimes, depending on which one gives you the best results. I'm gonna go into displacement and add it. My issue here is that I need to flip the map. So I'm gonna go in and go into Photoshop and I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna export it out. Nice. As you can see, I got a lot of the cool depth I was looking for. I'm gonna be applying it, adjusting it, playing with the intensity of it. Trying to adjust some of that stretching I was getting, dividing the mesh, add a couple subdivisions so when I apply it, it doesn't stretch too much. Looking at that low, dividing a little bit more so I can get some of the detail in when I apply the displacement. Just going in and adjusting it. When you select the mode part, it actually gives you a real representation of what it's going to look like when you actually apply it. Pay no attention to that ugly low. Just bring it over here and I'm gonna end up decimating it. Because, you know, who needs a 7 million base? This is for 3D print. Just playing with the decimation. See, make sure I don't have too much jaggedness in it, and it still looks as good as it was when it was 7 million, and seems to be the part right now. So that's how you can use, just playing with the contrast. See if I can get it to. And that's how you can use Substance Painter to get really cool materials and bring it back into ZBrush. It's gonna go all the way to the high and see how everything came out. Character Creator was a really cool tool to pose my character out and get a really finished, polished statue. And you know, I had fun doing it. It was easy to do, and a tool I'm going to use in future projects. And I'm going to give you a final render of how everything turned out for the statue. Please like and subscribe to the Stylus League, and look forward to making more content for everyone. Hope you like it. Peace.